Hi guys, welcome back to a new Photoshop tutorial. My name is Manny, and in today's post I'm going to show you guys again a creative car retouching image, taking a normal Lambo shot and a background shot, merging these two together to one final result. Then today's image is also sponsored by 4wheelsoflux.com. He's a car photographer, asked me to do a tutorial for him, so here it is. Okay, so we're starting out with bridge again, and before we even going to start with our first raw conversions, let's have a look quickly at our first base plates, which are basically the Lambo shot over here, which is also sponsored by 4wheelsoflux.com. And as you guys can see, the sun is most probably, or there's no sun at all here, but I am guessing that the sun is coming from the background here and is sinking behind the car, so we get a really nice soft very beautiful light over the car and obviously coming from the back. So this is now the main shot that I'm using, and for the background shot I should actually use another shot that would also have a sun in the background, or at least the sun that's going down. So I went out and took another shot here on the mountain in Cape Town, and definitely you have like the sunset also behind you, so if I can comp the car in here, that could look really nice and also very realistic, so because the light is obviously also coming from behind. So this was kind of what I was imagining, the car just on the road, and you get a really nice sun flare effect from behind and very soft over the car. Now this is not a final result, this is just a very quick retouch, just comping stuff together and see if the car would merge into this shot. Okay, yeah, so let's start now with our first raw conversions, where we're basically going to take our Lambo shot and also the background shot, both of these images together into Camera Raw, and we're going to do our first raw adjustments. So I'm going to double tap now just on the background shot, and first of all just going to work on the background shot. I did already tweak it a little bit over here, as you guys can see, but I'm going to switch this now back to Camera Raw defaults, and we have it back to our normal settings. So while I shot this, I also overexposed this a little bit just to have more details here in the road, and I can always go into Camera Raw and tweak this down a little bit, so which I'm actually going to do now. So I'm just going to darken this a little bit, and also going to take the exposure down to 0.45. I'm going to take my shadows down just a little bit more, and also going to have a look with the temperature what will happen if I take it up to 5000 Kelvin, just to make it a little bit warmer, a little bit more orangey already. So that is maybe a little bit too much. I can still tweak it in Photoshop, so I'm going to go to 4800 Kelvin. Okay, also with my saturation clarity, that's all fine. Maybe I'm going to tweak the blacks just to get a little bit more contrast. I'm more fan of tweaking my blacks instead of actually the contrast. So let's tweak the contrast maybe +1, +2. It's getting more already. Leave it at +6. And also let's try our whites, just to see if we get a little bit more pop in our image. Taking the slider up a little bit more. Yes, just more pop in the sky, which I'm not really looking for now. Okay, so over here. And then I'm also going to go into my HSL grayscale sliders over here and into my blue tones, and just going to tweak the blue tones a little bit darker, so we just get a little bit more blue up here. Okay, not too much, I don't want to overdo it. And that's all for now. Okay, back to my simple basic settings here, and I'm also going to open this now as a smart object again into Photoshop. Okay, so we have our first image imported now into Photoshop. Let's go back to bridge here, and we're going to select the Lambo shot, and on the Lambo shot also going to double click on that, take that into Camera Raw. In here I also did again a few adjustments already. Let's go set that back to Camera Raw defaults. And as you guys can see, it's a bit more darker. I brightened it quite a lot. Okay, so first very important step for me is also to have this at 4800 Kelvin. So our temperature is pretty much the same. Don't mess up with that. That is for me a very important stage. Okay, I'm also going to go into my detailed sliders and take my details up to around 60 and 0.5 with radius, just to give my overall pixels a bit more sharpness on the car. Let's go back to basic adjustments here, and first of all my exposure, I'm going to tweak that just a little bit, just to brighten the car a little bit more. Also my highlights up a little bit, just to give a really nice punch here onto the car. So let's take the highlights even further, a little bit more. Okay, it's more brightening. Okay, so let's take it up to +40, and my blacks, I'm also going to tweak those a little bit just to darken those, and the white sliders up a little bit. Push the whites even further, and there we're going to get a really nice push now on the car. So don't do it too much, maybe just around 40 as well. Okay, yeah, so that's about it. I'm not going to tweak it a little bit more. I'm happy with this, with these settings. Okay, I'm going to say open object as well, and that will also be imported into Photoshop. Okay, so we have our shot now as a separate canvas also in Photoshop already. What I'm going to do now, I'm just going to do a double raw conversion. So first of all, I'm going to take my layer over here and just duplicate that, drag that to the new layer icon. And now my second or my first layer is also still a smart object, so I need to rasterize that before I do a double raw conversion. Otherwise my first image will also be adjusted. So I'm going to press right click here onto the layer and just say rasterize layer. I know you can do it with keeping the smart object, but I don't want to do that now. Okay, so double click here on the small smart object icon again, take that back into camera raw, and now what I'm going to do is just take my exposure up a little bit because I do want to brighten just the wheels and everything down here just to get a little bit more detail into the road and also onto the car, especially the grille, the rims, and all of the dark shadow parts here. So I'm going to take the exposure down a little bit again, say to plus 70, 75, that's okay. Okay, I'm going to say okay, open that, and it's going to take us back into Photoshop. And as you guys can see now, our image changed again and it's a little bit lighter. Let's also just zoom out a little bit here. So this is our first adjustment and this is our second adjustment. First adjustment, second adjustment. Okay, I'm also going to rasterize this now, rasterize the layer, and I'm also going to make a hidden mask on this. So select Alt and select the new mask icon, and we have a hidden mask now. Now with my brush and white foreground color, switch the foreground colors over here, and opacity of say 50%, so somewhere around 50%, and also make my brush a little bit smaller. So my hardness should be 0. I wanted to have it completely feathered and say around 50 pixels. That's a little bit too small. Let's take it up a little bit more. So way too big, say around 200-300. Okay, and now I'm actually going to just paint onto the car here and just bringing back a little bit from our first exposure that we did, or first adjustment. Okay, so brightening just the wheels here a little bit, also a little bit from the side of the car and a little bit of the wheels. So I'm basically just brushing a little bit over here, brushing back some details, especially from the grille, a little bit from the fender here, and again on the car. And obviously I'm painting with a 50% opacity, so I can do that really fine, and it's slowly going to be adjusted. Okay, so let's turn that off and on, off and on. So that's our before and after. So basically we just lit this side a little bit, okay, over here a little bit more, and also giving this a little bit more pop. Okay, here at the back it looks a little bit like a small halo already, so I want to change that back. So just change your foreground colors and slowly just going to paint that back. Okay, switch foreground colors again, make my brush a little bit smaller. So I'm painting or working with the Vacuum Continuous 4 board. So I'm able via the board again change my wheel quickly, my brush size. Okay, and I'm just brushing back a little bit more detail here at the back again. Okay, so that's all now, just tuning the car a little bit. There's way more work on this car. Now what I'm also going to do is do the master shortcut, press Command Alt Shift and I, and now we have a complete new layer, and this layer I will take now and import that into our separate canvas. So let's just move this canvas away, and I'm going to take this new layer here now and just drop that straight into our background layer. Okay, then also going to just cancel this whole setup here. I don't need this layer anymore, so I can actually cancel that canvas. Okay, and now I'm going to press F, have full screen mode, and we already have the car now in our background shot. Now we need to first of all position our car into the shot and also position everything. Okay, so first of all what I'm going to do is over here again create a mask, and with this mask again just a normal mask, I'm going to, with a black foreground color, 100% opacity, I'm just very roughly going to paint out everything that I don't need now. So let's also paint at 100% opacity. Just going to brush this away. And I can obviously also sit now with the pen tool and cut everything out nicely and then position my car. But I actually don't want to do it. I just want to do it roughly now just to see where could I position the car. Okay, a little bit more. tweak this over here. I'm obviously also masking out now a lot from the car, but we're going to do that in a minute. We're going to clean all of that up again. That's why we also was working with a mask here, so we can work easier later. Okay, let's press V again, and we're going to move the car around a little bit, and it's a little bit too straight for the road. So let's move it over a little bit. I'm also going to press Command T and just rotate all of this a little bit, so the car just takes a little bit more of a new shape here around. Okay, I'm going to accept that. Okay, and I'm also now going to go into Edit and Transform, and I'm going to go into Perspective and tweak this just a little bit. So let's take the corner down here and just tweak the car a little bit down so it just goes a little bit more with the road. Just try to not distort it or that it doesn't look that it looks weird. So you have to keep the positions right. Okay, let's move this. Maybe we can also work with the arrow maybe a little bit. I'm actually not too happy. I just descaled it a little bit at the back, so let's move that back again. Let's take our front adjustments here. Okay, I don't want to do that. Nope. Okay, a little bit more. Take that down a little bit more. Okay, something like that. That could maybe work. Okay, accept that. And I think I'm going to start with that now. Okay, let's move the car a little bit back. Let's have a look here. It might be still a bit too round. Okay, I'm also going to go back to the brush here and just brush a little bit from the ground just to have a little bit better idea if I could use it like this or if I should still turn it a little bit. Okay, let's move it up a little bit. I think actually that could actually work. Okay, now what we're going to do is just take the complete mask over here and delete the mask. So right click and just say delete layer mask, and we have our complete image back in again. So as you guys can see, we just tweaked it a little bit. It still has the same shot. It's not distorted, so it's still fine. Okay, let's also make a group now for this complete layer. So I'm going to press Command G here. For Windows users, please use Control G. Okay, and I'm going to use a car. And for this image also here, I can actually press right click and say rasterize that as well. And we're just going to make a new layer over here, a new group, sorry, and call this also background. Okay, so we have our background and we have our car shot now over here. Now before I even start with merging the car in, I want to first of all tune the car a little bit and just work a little bit on the car itself. So first of all, as you guys can see over here, we have a person in the car reflecting. Over here we have a few trees in the car reflecting, and obviously a little bit of these spots here. So just cleaning that up a little bit. So that's what I'm going to do quickly on this normal layer. If you want to, you can also try to use a duplicate layer and just work on the duplicate layer in case you mess up, which I'm actually going to do now. So I'm going to press Command J and just work on my second layer. Just write 2 here, and the first layer I'm going to turn that off. Zoom in a little bit closer. I'm going to press J again, and also now just with my normal healing brush, I'm going to press Alt, select an area close by, and I'm just sampling over this and just cleaning this up a little bit. As you guys can also see, there's a lot of noise here on the image. That is obviously we sharpened it a little bit more than usually, so we do have more noise in here. But that sometimes suits a car shot, and it helps you also with the retouching a little bit. Okay, also down here, let's make that a little bit nicer. So now I'm basically just going over the car and just sampling areas and just trying to make it a little bit smoother and retouch it a little bit. Okay, let's zoom out again, and that is our after. It's not perfect, but looking a little bit better. Okay, let's also go over here and do the same effect over here, getting out these trees. So for that, I'm going to use my pen tool now, and just with the pen tool go along the lines here. A little bit better, okay. Just going to try sample this. Okay, all the way, and a little bit more. Okay, now we had made a path around this, so I'm going to press right click now, still in the pen mode, and going to say make a selection. Make selection, feathering the radius, no, that should be to 0. Okay, so we have just a normal selection around this. And now I'm also going to press my clone tool, so S on the keyboard, clone stamp tool for this. I'm going to press Alt again and just sample over this. So over here, just very roughly sampling a little bit more. Okay, and also here in the top, I want to actually just do it a little bit more. Okay, so first of all, clone that, because obviously if you work with the healing brush tool, you would not get that as nice now. Okay, a little bit more here, just trying to get up the spots. And now I'm going to press J to go into the healing brush tool and just smudge this a little bit. So over here, sample again and just smudge in this a little bit with the healing brush. Okay, to let it look a little bit better. Okay, press Command D, get out of that selection, and it's a bit sloppy here at the end. So I should have actually done that a little bit better with my pen tool, but I'm going to zoom out. I'm going to leave it to that now. But just remember, you always should work a little bit finer. I really did this a bit sloppy now. I can't go back. I didn't create a mask, so I have to leave it like this now. Okay, zoom out a little bit. So that's, again, our before and after. So just cleaning up that a little bit. And also going to zoom in here into the back. Have a look here. That is also a lot of new work that I actually should do. What I'm going to try doing now on a new separate layer. Also going to press pen tool again. And let me zoom a little bit closer. I'm just trying to replicate this complete fender in here. So let's go in a little bit closer, press P again, and I'm just going to make a path around this. So also going to try go very close in. A little bit more. Okay, and along these lines here. Okay, until to the white bar. Let me zoom out a little bit. So you want it to almost reach this white line over here. Back with the pen tool. I'm just going to make a straight line over here. A little bit further. And all in here. Okay, so that's basically now my new area and my new fender. So with the pen tool still, press right click again, say make selection, zero feathering, yes, and we're just going to make a new selection around this. Okay, press your marking tool. I'm going to go press right click again and say fill this complete section now with a new color. So with the contents over here, I'm going to select color, and with the color picker going to almost pick here the same color as we have here. Okay, so sample this color, okay, going to select that, okay, press Command D, and we have a complete new fender over here, but it looks very, very bad. So what we're going to do, first of all, as you guys can obviously see, this is a very smooth color, and over here we have a lot of noise. So what I'm going to do now on that layer is just go back to filter, noise, and add some noise on top of this. So luckily I already have the same settings that I used before. I'm going to switch that back to 0. So normally I start out with 1%. Have a look, okay, the grain starts a little bit more. Go back to 2%. Grain looks almost the same like the cars. Then go to 3%, and that's a little bit too much already. So go a step back. So 2.8, that was around the settings that I've used, or 2.8. Okay, and that's about the settings that I wanted to use. Okay, so now we have our new fender in here, but it still looks a little bit bad. So what we're going to do now, before we're going to create a mask on this, double click onto the layer, and we're going to go into gradient overlay. Okay, so we have gradient overlay now. Let me just move this a little bit to the side. And under our layer style, we're going to just take our blending options and try that under soft light. Okay, and also going to take my opacity down a little bit more. Okay, I'm going to hit OK now, and first of all also going to take a mask, and with the mask just brush this in a little bit better. Okay, so on a white mask with around say 40% opacity, black foreground color, and a very soft brush, so press Ctrl Alt together, move your mouse, and you can actually tweak the hardness over here if you move your mouse up and down. So I'm going to take a hardness of 0%, and my brush should be, let's also make the brush a little bit smaller, somewhere around 30%. So now I'm not going to brush with the brush over this, I'm just going to brush over here and try to use the outside of the brush. So have a look, if I'm slowly brushing over here, you can see how it slowly starts to fade into my actual layer over here. Okay, a little bit more. Okay, and we're going to do it down here as well. A little bit more, and that's why I'm also painting with a 40% opacity. because now I can do it very slowly and just very slowly brush that in. Here at the top I do want to keep it quite hard, so don't try to, okay, now it's going too much already, so I'm going to go a few steps back here in history panel. Okay, a little bit more. Okay, I'm trying to replicate that in a moment, so a little bit more over here and there. Okay, let's zoom in a little bit closer. Press B again for your brush, and I'm also going to make my brush a little bit smaller. Okay, I'm still trying to have a really hard edge over here for the light. I'm going to press X again so we have white foreground color, and now just painting back a little bit here from the fender. Okay, just to get these rings out a little bit. Okay, so then I'm also going to turn this off now, this layer, and just zoom a little bit closer, and just want to cut out this small edge here from the door. So I'm going to do with the pen tool a path around again around this. That was a bit sloppy, so let's go a step back. And just trying to replicate this. I'm going to zoom a little bit closer over here, use my pen tool again. Just go a step back. Okay, now I'm just going to work along these lines here. A little bit more, okay, and complete that path. Going to press right click, say make selection, zero feathering, okay, zoom out a little bit with Z again, and now we obviously have this gap from the door. On the new layer here on our mask again, selecting the mask, not the layer, the mask. Press B again, and with black foreground color I'm just going to paint that out a little bit. So let's zoom in a little bit closer here, and the gap is already nicely out. So we're just painting in this selection. Press Command D, and we have this nice edge from the door also cutting out really nicely. So that's our layer before and after, before and after. So it's a little bit smoother and a little bit cleaner. It's still not the same color. So let's zoom a little bit closer over here, and also want to replicate just this here at the top a little bit, clean this up a little bit. So I'm going to go select the layer now on top of here, and also going to just blur this at the top a little bit. So I'm going to take my smudge tool or blur tool over here, and just with again 40% opacity, just going to smudge this end a little bit over here. Okay, a little bit more, so it just blends in a little bit better here with the door. Okay, you can also get that out still, the reflection, and clean this up a little bit. So that's what we're also going to do now. So let's zoom in a bit closer, and we're going to turn off our complete new door here, go back to our second layer, and just clean this up a little bit. Take your pen tool again, and just with a very straight line, going to go over this, create a new selection here, right click, make selection, zero feathering, yes. And now also with the clone stamp tool, going to clone exactly this area over here, and slowly going to brush over this a little bit more and a little bit more. So this is actually a really nice trick, just almost sampling in the selections. Press Command D, and you have cleaned that up a little bit nicer. Select your door layer again, switch that on, and there you can also see the gap over here. So what we're going to do on the second layer again is press again P for the pen tool, and also make a really straight line like this. And we're now going to just fix this selection. Again, made a path, right click, make selection, zero feathering for the selection. And I'm also going to press S again for the clone stamp tool, hold Alt, and then this sample in here really closely. And that's brightening that a little bit. So take with J your smudging tool, or actually the healing brush tool. And we're just going to smudge that a little bit again in here. Okay, and press Command D, and that looks a little bit better already. Now on my new layer here again, on the door layer, I'm also going to smudge this a little bit. So press J, and just very simple over here a little bit. Just be careful with this. As you guys can also see, here's almost no noise anymore from the smudging tool and from the blurring tool. Okay, and this is actually a process that I would sit for hours and hours and hours and just retouch all these small elements. Now I don't want to do that too much. I actually want to continue doing the tutorial and show you guys how to merge this into the background a little bit better. Before I do that, one last step that I'm still going to do is just press again P, for the pen mode, and just going to make a really straight line over here, trying to replicate a little bit of this nice white reflection here. So that's also a trick that I mostly use, is just go over here and recreate these white rims. So also press P again, make a selection and zero feathering, say OK, and now we have a complete new selection around here. So let's zoom out a little bit. So we're going to fill this actually now with a new white foreground color. So make a new layer, and on this new layer I'm going to also press marking tool, right click onto the selection and say fill this again with again white foreground color, OK, and Command D. And now we have a complete new white color over here. So what I'm basically going to do now with this is also just take the opacity all the way down to say just 10%. Like that, 10%, and that already gets a little bit brighter and just stands out a little bit. But what's really nice is now that you have a really clean edge over here, and if you would also clean this up here at the top with just the mirror, and you start cleaning up these sides and just replicate all the whites around the car, you would get a really nice looking car. And you can also do the same with black, so you can actually do a mask around here, or say with the pen tool a selection around this small black area, and you can just make and replicate that with a very low opacity with another black layer, which I'm not going to do now in all of this from the tutorial, because it's just going to get way too long. So let's also take a new mask down here, and for this new white stripe we're going to take again our brush, and just again with a low opacity with a black mask, 40% opacity, I'm just going to very roughly paint over here and just try to merge that a little bit better into our background here. Okay, also at the top here a little bit, so we just have a smoother edge. Okay, but here at the bottom I'm not going to paint on here. I do want to have this straight long edge over here. Now obviously over here I should fix this. As you guys can see, the small edge over here, that's also very quickly actually going to select my second layer again, which is actually like my base plate. I'm also going to press P for pen tool and just very slowly going to try to make a path around here and into here. Okay, press right click, make selection, zero feathering. Okay, now again clone stamp tool, just sample this area and just paint this in. Okay, Command D, and this looks a bit, or the edge or the finishing looks a little bit better here. Okay, press Z again, zoom out a little bit, and as you guys can see now we replicated again a new door. Let's just take our new layers here. Command G, I'm just going to write here door and reflection. Okay, and if I'm going to turn this on and off, or off, there's our before and after, before and after. Now obviously this still needs loads of work. This is not even nearby of looking good, so I would have still sit maybe another few hours just retouching the complete car. So again here before and after. But let's also now start with our complete car layer, where we're going to merge this actually into the shot. So now I'm also going to take a complete mask onto the complete group and just start masking that out a little bit. So let's start at the back again with the pen tool. I'm just going to very roughly over here, going to replicate along the car and just trying to cut out the car a little bit. So again with the pen tool going along your car. So I might fast forward this a little bit now, so we can just skip a bit of cutting out the car. Okay, so let's zoom out a little bit more, and I'm also going to make now the path just around the complete car. So I made it around the car, and also going to just go along the complete canvas over here and just fill that path, and we have now a complete selection or path around the car. So press right click again, say make selection, zero feathering, and now we're going to basically cut out this complete car. So we have our selection now, and I'm going to take my brush again, and also with a black foreground color, 100% opacity, I'm just going to brush this complete car out. So let's go over here and just quickly going to brush that. Okay, and a little bit more just around here. So you can be really rough now because this is obviously a complete selection. Okay, a little bit more. And that is all from our selection. Okay, so what we can also do now to save a bit on the process, I'm going to go back to marking tool. I'm also going to press right click and say save selection. And in here we're just going to write car out. So I know this is on a new channel on the car out, so I have the selection. If I need to call this up again, I can just quickly go into marking tool and call up the selection again. Press Command D and we're going to zoom in a little bit closer over here and still do the same effect again with pen tool. Again, I'm just quickly going to cut out these small areas over here. So make a selection, zero feathering with my brush. Quickly going to paint that out. Let's also make the brush a little bit smaller over here. Okay, press Command D out of that selection and we're going to do the same effect over here. And quickly going to just make a path around this area here. More. Cut all of that out. Okay, and fill the path. Right click, make selection. Take your brush again, and we're just going to brush all of this out again. Okay, and we have a cleaner edge now. Or a little bit more. Okay, Command D and out of that selection. And now we have cut out our car. But we still have the road in here. Why do we still have the road? That is because I actually want to brush out the road a little bit more smoother and also brush the road in with the actual road that's underneath of it. Okay, so but before I start doing that, what I want to do is go just to adjustments and create a levels adjustment layer, which is basically clipped now to our group here. So I'm going to hold Alt, go between the layers and the small arrow appears and just going to sample that. So that basically means now the new adjustment levels layer is clipped to the group and will only affect the group that's underneath of it. Okay, go back to levels and with levels I'm just going to darken this image a little bit more. So somewhere around there, and I'm also going to go back to our group here with B, brush, and just going to mask this in a little bit. So let's go over and select a 40 or 50% opacity, very soft brush again, and just slowly going to try to fade in the road here a little bit. And for me the color looks still a little bit off. The road is way too blue than to our other road, it's way warmer. So we have to also Photoshop that a little bit more. Okay, and I actually want to include this whole arrow onto the ground. That could look really, really cool. Okay, brush a little bit more over here. And maybe let's try move our two layers or just this layer down a little bit. Okay, so we have the arrow just disappearing here a little bit. I can also press Command T again and just rotate this a little bit more. Now the car disappears completely. That is weird. Okay, press Command T. Okay, let's try that. And we're going to accept that now. So the car disappeared. I don't know, I think Photoshop can't really render this that quickly. And then we have the car again. Okay, and that looks a little bit better. Now we still need to fix obviously the road and a few more things here on the road. Okay, and also my levels adjustments here. I don't want to overtake the levels adjustment that technically onto the car. I do like it that it's a little bit darker, but not that strong. So let's take the opacity down a little bit again. I'm actually going to leave it at 100% opacity. I'm going to go onto my mask here, press B again with black foreground color, and I'm just going to paint out the car a little bit. Make it a bit bigger here, and especially on the rim as well. And here a little bit more. We're just trying to get the road to look a little bit better with the actual road underneath. Okay, let's also go back into adjustments and selective color again. That will clip to the bottom. I'm going to go into my colors here and into the neutrals. And now what I want to try is just get this blue color here that's actually coming from the road going a little bit more into the actual orange and sunset mood a little bit more onto that orangey warmer Kelvin colors. So I'm going to take my yellows and just move them a little bit over to the warmer side. So a little bit more, so that just gets a little bit more warmer. The car also gets more orangey. Okay, not too much. And I'm also going to now brush on the car again with a black foreground color again and just try to get that orange out a little bit from the actual color. You do want to keep the red color of the Lambo, so don't want to do that orange Lambo. Just trying to get that color a little bit more onto the road. Okay, so let's go and just bring in the street a little bit better. So I'm going to go back into the car group down here and to our main base plate again. And under here, again adjustments and again a levels adjustment layer. But this should also be clipped to the ground. So select Alt again, and this is just clipped to our second layer now. We can actually call this our base plate. Okay, and now what I'm going to do with this level adjustment layer, I'm just going to take the whites over here and darken them a little bit until the street suits a little bit better. Okay, a little bit more, a little bit up. Okay, but now obviously our car went dark again, so we can also first of all actually create it with a pen tool and mask around the car, but I didn't do that. So on the mask again, with black foreground color, just at a, say 100% opacity, I'm just going to brush out the car again. So this would have actually made it maybe a little bit easier if we first of all created a selection around the car with a path, and then we can always just very quickly call up our selection and, you know, like clean up the car really easy. Okay, I don't want to do it too much at the bottom here. So it still kind of looks a little bit better, suits the car a bit. Okay, so just tar car out a little bit better. Okay, now we obviously have already a little bit of a shadow and also the road. But it still doesn't look too good because we still need to actually, let's just take all of these new layers here and put them together in one group again and just call this again the car group. So we have car. Let's open this quickly. Yeah, that could also be together in one. Okay, so let's also now start doing just the road here a little bit. We still have light reflections here on the road, so let's get rid of those. First of all, I'm going to just remove the car quickly, turn off that layer, go to our background layer here and select adjustments. We're going to go to hue and saturation. And now into the tones, we're going to go into the yellow tones and turn them all the way down so we have no yellows whatsoever. And we're going to just darken those a little bit as well. Okay, so now with our mask here, just press Command E so we can invert that, make that a hidden mask. Okay, take your brush again, and with the brush I'm just trying to get out all the yellows here in the front. So let's press opacity 100 and a white foreground color, and we're just going to subtly brush over here, try to get all the yellows out. First of all, let's turn on the car layer again. Okay, that looks alright, but it's still very bright, so let's darken this a little bit. Try it first with levels adjustment layers and also hold Alt so we can clip these new levels adjustment layers to this mask over here. And I'm just going to darken this a little bit more. Okay, like that. And I'm now also going to create a new dodge and burn layer, or we can actually try dodging quickly here on just our base plate. So let's take our dodge and burn tool over here, and we're going to take the burn tool and maybe just at a 0.7 or 8%, going to burn a little bit here on the road. Okay, that works quite good actually. Let's burn a little bit more. Okay, still not too happy with this. Let's also try if we press our clone stamp tool and just clone a little bit of some darker areas from here. Okay, press Command D. I actually want to clone just at a 50% opacity, not that strong. Okay, make my brush a little bit smaller. So I'm going to press Alt again and just sample into this dark area over here. So we can just sample some dark areas. That looks already a bit better. Okay, a little bit over here again, sampling some of the road. And a little bit more. Okay, just darkening all of that. And let's go with the opacity of again 30%, very low opacity. Just with a few strikes over here, cloning the road a little bit. Okay, now what we're going to do is also going to change our color a little bit, because obviously the color doesn't look good at all. First of all, I'm going to go back into adjustments, create another levels adjustment layer, and just darken my image a little bit more. I do want it to have a little bit more shady over here. It's a little bit on the darker side, and also take the highlights, just pop them a little bit more. And now what I'm going to do is go back to layer, new fill layer, solid color. Okay, and I'm also going to pick a very orangey color over here, maybe a little bit cooler. Let's go a little bit down, and something like this, which is a very bright yellow. Okay, and now with this new fill layer, we're going to go to our blending options and turn this all the way down to color. So we are going to fill this now with a complete yellow color. Now obviously I don't want to overtake this at 100% opacity, maybe just at 20, and have a look what that will give us. So that just merges the colors all together a little bit better. Maybe not too much, maybe just at around 15%. Okay, let's also go back into adjustments and also go back to selective color. And in here we're going to take our neutrals. I'm going to turn our blacks down a little bit more so we just get a little bit more contrast on this. And also the cyans up a little bit. So a little bit more reddish, bit more warmer. Let's also have a look if we change a little bit of our magentas here into the image and into the shadows. That will look kind of alright, not too nice. Okay, you can still tweak our yellows here to either more on the greenish side, more into the magenta side again. I'm going to tweak them a little bit into the magenta side. Okay, that was a bit too much. Now I turn something up. Okay, and the blacks down a little bit more again. So the blacks up to plus 16, somewhere around there. Okay, now what I still want to do is also create a new layer and do a bit of dodge and burning here. So solid new layer, press M for marking tool, and we're going to fill this again with 50% gray. Okay, and we're going to make a duplicate of that, and we're going to say here soft layer and hard layer. Change your blending options as well again to overlay for hard and the soft layer back to soft light. Okay, take both of these layers, Command J, put it in a new group, dodge and burning. Okay, and we can also do these two color layers here, or make a new group and just write their color. So it's just a bit more sorted. Okay, and in our dodge and burn group, I'm going to go back to soft layer, press B for the brush, and I'm going to work with just 0.7% opacity. And also a very feathered brush, very soft, so hardness 0. And now what I'm trying to do is just darken a little bit here in the front. Get a little bit of that darker shape in here. Also trying to just darken the car a little bit here at the back. And brush a little bit over the car. So I'm doing a little bit of selective dodge and burning. Okay, swap again, so I want to brighten the wheels a little bit. I'm not too happy actually with the magentas in here. So let's take the magentas out again. I'm just going to go over these highlights a little bit, over the car here a little bit. Okay, let's also go back into colors, and in the selective colors I'm not too happy with all these magentas, so let's rather keep it a little bit on the yellow brownish side. Okay. So that looks a little bit better already, with just a little bit of dodge and burning as well, just doing the colors a little bit. So you can obviously also then dodge and burn on the hard layer a little bit here in the actual shot. So just make your image look a little bit nicer, and a little bit on the mountain so we have a little bit more detail here. Okay, give this image a little bit more of a punch. Okay, and I'm going to make one big highlighted slider over here. Brighten this a little bit. Okay, a little bit more of selective dodge and burning here. Again, I'm going to go back into adjustments, and again, going to just darken this a little bit. I know it's getting a little bit too dark down here, so I shouldn't try to not do that too much. Okay, and I'm now going to press Command Alt Shift E and just make a master shortcut and merge all these layers that I have now together to one, and just try to get the colors look a little bit better together. So go into Nik Software, Color FX Pro 4. Okay, and the plugin has loaded, and over here I do have this filter called Ink again. So let's select the Ink filter. That's way too much magenta in here, so let's take that down a little bit, say somewhere around a strength of 20%, and also we get a really nice highlighting pop into this image, so I do really like it. Okay, it's actually a little bit too dark down here. I should have actually worked a little bit better on the exposure down here, but I'm not going to do that now for the tutorial, so I'm not too happy with the bottom actually. But let's have a look if that also gets together now as one. Okay, let's look a little bit better with the magentas. And let's go into try also if I'm going to go, because it's obviously a sunset shot, the flare is coming from behind, so I would like to actually go into Knoll Light Factory, the tutorial that I showed you guys a few weeks ago, and just add another flare effect into here. I think it's just going to make, yeah, it looks, I really love the orange flare effect from here, from the behind, so it just makes the image look a little bit more warmer together. Let's also take it up a little bit more, so that is really orangey now, not too much of that. Maybe down a little bit, just to get a little bit of that hazy look in here from the flare actually, which I can't really achieve just with a normal brush. Okay, let's have a look if we do that all the way over here. I'm just playing a little bit with the flare, where it could look really, really nice. So over there, okay. Okay, so that has been rendered now, and as you guys can see, this is again the before and after. So this does change a little bit of that whole color mood and also brings it a little bit better together. Okay, last step that we could maybe still do is just crop this a little bit, so we have a little bit of a cropped shot and more tighter in. Say okay for that. That's being cropped now, or you could also leave that all together as one big shot, depends on what you prefer. And there we have almost our final product. Let's also take some groups here. I'm just going to write in here final. Now I'm not 100% happy with this outcome. I would actually say, okay, for first quick retouch, that's fine. But I should have actually sit way longer on this and retouch way more and more concentrated. But I would most probably use the same techniques and retouch it exactly the same, just take more time and do it more finer and more concentrated. Okay, press Command G for these two last layers here, and we're just going to write here pop. Okay, so that is basically now my before and after. Let's quickly start again from before, adding the car into the shot and also adding a little bit more color, then again a little bit dodge and booming. That was maybe a little bit too much if I have a look now at it. And then obviously last color pop to this and adding the final last flare touch to it. So that's it for today's tutorial, guys. Like I said before, I'm still not 100% happy with this. Should take more time to retouch this.